Hey, thanks for joining me. I have been looking for this very specific issue of heavy metal for so long. I've had it for years, and everything's been tucked away ever since I moved and got divorced and piled everything into a storage shed. And I knew I had it somewhere. At some point years ago, I can't remember how somebody gave these to me. I didn't buy them. I just don't remember how I got them. But I got this big pile of all these heavy metal magazines. I'd heard of heavy metal before I got these. I didn't know what really went on inside them, except that my understanding is that there was like titties inside. And to a young teenage me, I'm like, okay, can I see, please? Um, and so I got several, and this one is my favorite. There was a revelation in this thing that I had no idea that I would enjoy it so much, which we're going to get to in just a second. Great cover. Louis Royo. I'm guessing this is that Julie Strain, right? God, am I remembering her name right? That girl who was married to the publisher guy for a while and was in all those like B movie like Skinamax type shits, and 6 foot tall babe with dark hair, kind of hot back in her day. She's passed along as far as I know, but so good cover. I like the color tones, like the color palette going on the cover. And I'm not an expert on heavy metal at all, in as much as knowing the history and why it exists and how long it's been going. And I don't know anything about it, except it's a magazine with more, shall we call it, adult content, not comics for kids, even though it literally says, "Hey kids, it's summertime," from Kevin Eastman. But so this was published in September of '98, it says. And so I got these, and I was flipping through them. And of course, you get all these pages of all these different things that you could pick up. And it's so hard to know. You know, back in the day, it's like a cover may look good, but what's on the inside? Does the cover match the guts? I don't know. There's a lot of neat things here that I'd be curious to see. Get into some action figures, or not action figures, but statues from Claiborne Moore. Remember this Witchblade, Beavis and Butthead? It's like they're kind of funny, but who's going to pay top dollar for a Beavis and Butthead statue? I don't know. Frank Frazetta designs, Medieval Witchblade, Kenneth Irons. I'm sure that sold a lot. Pitt's pretty awesome. So interviews, more adult content books to buy. Oh, pardon my hiccup. I don't know what this is. Sorry. The name of this artist, Serperier. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. Great artist. I wish I could find more of his works. I remember reading this story, Hell, the Coma. It wasn't particularly well drawn. I guess it's okay. The storytelling is actually pretty clear. But, you know, we're not here to talk about that. That is a story on its own that could be worthwhile. Right here, Lorna, Leviathan, by this artist I had never heard of. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Azpiri? I think it's Alfonso Azpiri. I hope I'm saying his name right. I remember reading this book, and at first glance, looking at this story, which is a substantial chunk of this book, it goes on for several pages to here. It's all this is story, and then it continues on in the back and finishes up. At first glance, I kind of flipped through this and was just looking at the artwork. And one of the things, if you know this artist, as Piri, again, I hope I'm saying his name right, sexualized female characters. He's known for that, sexualized female figures. So I was checking out that stuff, and there's like nudity and sex, and I was like, oh, that's fun, that's hot. So I flipped it, went looking all through the others. Then I came back and read the story, and then I just started paying attention to the art. And so, separate of the hot girl factor, holy Lord, is this guy a good artist? Like, holy Lord. Sometimes artists are known for drawing. If you mention Adam Hughes, people are like, oh, he's the guy that draws hot girls. Well, sure, but he can draw anything and everything else. Same thing with this guy. His use of color, I don't know if it's watercolor, acrylics, pencil, chalk, colored pencil. I don't know. It's like he uses everything. Obviously, mixed media. His storytelling is great. His vehicles are great. His backgrounds are great. His figure work is sublime. And he draws sexy female figures. So you got two things that he's absolutely amazing at. Female figures that are done in a way that I wouldn't think that I would like. And we'll get into it when we get into the book. But then his coloring and his use of like making everything look worn, and in it, the coloring helps sell the environment that they're in. We'll get to it when we get there. But basically, this is a story that is kind of a spin on Moby Dick, which I didn't know when I read it until I got into it. And I don't know. I've never read Moby Dick. I know very little about it, except it's a whaling ship and an obsessive captain who's after the whale. And there's references to it in like Star Trek II and in Star Trek The Next Generation. Captain Picard's read Moby Dick, you know. So I know about it in a very basic sense. But this is like a Moby Dick type story that she gets sucked into. So there's this big space station thing, and there's talking back and forth. I never knew the history of this character. You don't need to. You got the girl, and there is this rope. There's two robot creatures that she pals around with. So they're searching, they're looking. Again, just great colors. And then, again, the color, his choices of colors to have like her figure stand out, this glowing light in the background, this soft, I don't know if there's some airbrush going on. How he does this, I don't know. Very cartoony, good lettering, sound effects on this monster, big mouth full of teeth, claws. And he likes to draw this girl with a big thick ass and her hair flowing around. But like, look at this, the color in her hair. Like, why would you think to put that kind of color in her hair? I would never, ever in a million years, but it works. And then this close-up of this monstrous creature's face as he attacks her. They have to get away. She's searching for whatever. I love this shot here too of her in the cave in the distance and that light on behind her. Great stuff. And then it attacks her, and of course we get our first glimpse at like her clothes get ripped off. Of course, great monster shot, big teeth. She's able to pull a gun, blow a hole through its head, and so she's kind of trapped, and she's like, help. And then it cuts over to this page right here. Now, I was just looking at it, just for the first time I'd noticed the story is Leviathan, right? Leviathan. Like, they spelled it wrong. He spelled it wrong. Leviatan. There's supposed to be an H for Leviathan. I mean, right? That's unfortunate to put that much effort into it and misspell it. Unless I'm missing something. I don't know. Anyway, so big science fiction-y background, great shot. So then our heroic girl, Lorna, she's in this technological space meeting with this, like, I don't know what he is. I'm just going to call him like a weird technological oracle. Look at these awesome hands that he draws there. And this guy, just with all these cables connected to him. She's trying to get some information. He's offering up information to her. Her robot companions were kidnapped. And so she's trying to figure out where they are, is what happened. In this adventure that was going on, I guess that her robot companions got kidnapped from her somehow there. So now she's got to seek them out. Love this panel of this guy. Get up close on that. With all these cables connected to him, like this one that's way close up to us up front, and then goes down closer to his body, and the little electronic, like static electricity discharges going down it. So he's like your droids were kidnapped by this place that takes robots. There are many uses for droids, but if they've been kidnapped or stolen, there's usually a reason. Work. She's like, work? And he's like, in section 34, there was a small solar system with 9 aligned planets. And the third one is Aquadat, a gloomy planet scourged by the Otini, some kind, I don't know, Otina's storms. It is a world covered by water. And from its depths, pink amber is obtained. This is a product rich in medicinal collagens, which is found in the brains of the Dikmos, the only beast living on the planet. Basically whales. So I'm like, did they fucking steal, did Avatar 2 steal that story point from this? There's like, it's a water planet and they have to drill into the fucking brains of the whales to get this magical material. Because it's saying it right here. This is one of my favorite panels in this book. This guy with his head up, kind of like looking towards the sky, and his hands way up close with the electricity kind of zapping between him as he's like projecting an image for us to see. That is so good. Of course, we're going to get a shot of her butt. Believe me, this is only the start. As she's like, well, what are they doing with the robots? And they're like, well, you know, there's such the salt level on the planet is so high that no machine survives the oxidation. Droids are used for the most unpleasant jobs and only takes a few months before they are destroyed. So she's like, all right, well, I'm going to have to go there to find her robot companions. And she says, Dikmo hunters are the scum of the whole universe. Many never come back. Some even become rich and powerful. If you want to go there to rescue your droids, there's only one way you can do it. I like how the storytelling gets closer on his like goggles, closer and closer until you're like seeing a reflection of space in them. And then the space becomes a whole new scene as a spaceship is traveling towards these planets. Cut to a beautiful picture of a bolt of lightning striking down. And like no computer effects needed, no Photoshop, no glowing lens flares, just painting in color. And the little like spindly, like the little extra lines and tendrils from the main bolt of lightning and then the little extra ones. I don't know what the terminology is. Fantastic. And then a guy like a preacher, you know, preaching the word, and God has prepared a big fish which would swallow Jonah, blah, blah, blah. Great angle on this shot here. Weird gargoyle creature. Coloring, the highlights, the lighting. I remember when I sat down and read this, because again, I flipped through this basically. The first time I got it, years ago, when I was 18 or 19, I was like, well, let me find all the pictures of the naked girl figures. Great. But then when I read it, I was just like getting into this artwork. Look at the spaceship coming down, the clouds, and look at the color distinctions between the background and then the foreground ship. Gives them a layer of separation so you can make out the ship very clearly in the foreground. No computer coloring needed. All done by hand. Great shot. Love this so much. The ship coming here. I'm going to bring it up closer. Look at all the detail on this vehicle. Like, again, this artist is known for drawing, like, you hear this guy, Azpiri's name, is like, oh yeah, he draws hot naked girls having sex all the time. No, look at what he can draw. These spaceships, like the energy blast coming out of the rockets. Look at this, like, technological island. And then the stormy seas in the background. And the guy still preaching, the color palette on everything on his clothes. All the people watching as the ship lands. Silently lands, good lettering, sound effects. I like the exhaust coming down to slow its descent. A big ladder comes down. And here's our character, Lorna. And this is also the first time I noticed, look at the landing gear on this ship and the colors on there. It indicates like metal rusting and decomposing, which would make sense on a world that's just nothing but an ocean. Salt content. So this is prevalent throughout the book, where the metal looks like it's oxidizing and rusting. I'm like, what a great attention to detail. So, I mean, I hope you can tell, like, I'm obviously super enthusiastic about this book. I love it so much, and I was just like, this is so good. A couple of the other books that I have more stories by this artist, which we will look at another time. But this story, and first off, the length of it, and then the way the story was told, in addition to the hot babes, this is the best one by far. And I don't know what else he's done. I'm sure there's a lot more. Anyway, so Lorna has shown up to this place because her robot companions are trapped here. Cut to a scene of a bunch of robots, and here they are. And I guess she knows that she's near. They're here to rescue them. They're like, oh, great. Meanwhile, the slave masters or whatever, they're like, hey, no more talking. Get along with your work. Blah, blah, blah. And so he says the name Pequod. I think that's how you say that. That's the name of the boat from Moby Dick, right? So obviously, I think this is the first indication that that's where this is going, because nothing else so far has led you to think maybe that this was a Moby Dick kind of inspired fable, except maybe the guy preaching. Maybe that. Again, I don't know. I haven't read the book. So right now here we start getting into this Azpiri guy doing some of these female figures where she's there to look sexy because she's undercover. She's not just running around like the previous pages in some action stuff where her titties start popping out. And so it's one of those things where you can tell, and we'll see more as this goes along, where he's got such an understanding of the human figure, the female body, and where all the curves are supposed to go, and how to render that to make it look like a really attractive female form. But then he can exaggerate it. This is a thing that I think some artists don't understand. You have to learn to draw a figure correctly first, at least to a certain level, before you can distort it and turn it into kind of an exaggerated anime or animated or more abstract-y figure without it looking weird. I hope that makes sense. But she's showing up onto the scene. It's some kind of like sleazy bar. There's a girl dancing in the background. A bunch of scummy guys and girls probably selling their bodies. And she's like, time to get to work. A guy asks if she would like to have a drink with the humble fisherman. And a bunch of guys show up, and she kind of dismisses him. So he kind of throws himself at her. He's like, come with me and you'll see what I'm talking about. A guy intervenes, says she's busy. This guy's like, this is none of your business. She's trying to push this guy off her. Again, great figure work, great cartooning, great colors. But then the guy who was kind of interfering, he smacks the slime ball guy away. And it's like, okay, guys, she's with us. And she's like, I could have defended myself alone, but thank you. He's like, my name's Ishmael, which, again, I guess that's the name of a character from that book. And this Ishmael says, he is a prince of a faraway planet. We both belong to the Pequod's crew. And she's like, the Pequod weighs anchor in 2 days, doesn't it? And he's like, we will spend 2 years in the middle of that stinking mass of dirty water. You see, my friend and I saved some money, and here there aren't many places to spend it. So we're wondering if, and then it cuts to they're having a little trifecta, a little menage a trois, and in what I think is an anti-gravity room, because there's no bed, they're just floating in the air. This guy with the tattoos, who's with Ishmael here, he's like floating back there spent, and meanwhile Ishmael's just getting it on. And like, look, Yahoo, she's even got her hand working business for maximum pleasure. But look at the coloring on all of that. And again, another thing, learning how to draw the female figure. I mean, you have female breasts and they're uncovered and the body's moving around. These are soft pieces of human flesh that move and flex and fall with gravity and with motion. They don't just sit here pointing like silicone-filled, rock-hard nippled nonsense like you'd see in Image Comics. And the way that he can draw the figure and that part of her anatomy looking correct, I'm just like, this is a guy who understands so good of what he's drawing. And again, not to point out specifically the nude figures, but it's the idea of how well he can draw the human figure in addition to everything else. So after the trifecta that they have, and she talks him into these guys getting her onto the ship. She has to get onto the ship to get her little robot companions. So again, cut to another scene, just a silent shot. And again, the coloring is amazing. Like the sun's either rising or going down in the distance. Like it's setting in the distance. So you got the highlight of the horizon back there. She's going on to the ship. Some scummy guys like trying to warn her off that you should be wary of where you're going, what you're doing. She's like, whatever. All right, fine. Who is Old Thunder? He says, beware of Old Thunder. Who's that? Captain Ahab, captain of the Pequod. Have you heard about how he lost his leg? Almost everyone knows he only has one leg and the beast took the other one. She's like, look, I don't got time for your story. She's like, all right, but when you're on board, tell everybody that Elias has decided not to be one of them this trip. Don't forget. So he's basically warning him off, like something bad's going to happen. He can just tell. So she gets on the ship, and then this. So we're looking at like I guess a cockpit of this vessel, which we haven't seen. We've heard of it. We can see bits and pieces of it as she's boarding it. It says hull activated, go ahead, all ready to cast off. And you see some metallic like landing gear, grappling hooks, mooring arms, retracting. And then they're like anchorage loose, proceed to the open gate. And so this gate lifts up as the boat that they're on departs. And looking at that shot, this giant boat, you can tell the scale of it with like the little like habitats on top of these little dots. Like this is bigger than like 3 aircraft carriers, basically. I mean, it looks massive, like unbelievably huge. And it's also floating up, because if you see in this next shot down here, it's like the water line at the boat that you can see here is like at this point on it here. So it's hovering above the water. And again, looking at the metal textures on the wall up here, how it's obviously rusting and deteriorating, the color palette and the choices used there. I'm guessing these are like force fields guiding the ship. Maybe it's what's keeping it floating while it departs out of dock. I don't know. I like that it doesn't bother trying to tell you. It just is. And then the boat is in the water, this massive ship, giant sails deployed. It's interesting, a giant technological ship that can float needs sails. It's just a visually interesting thing. But it's off onto its adventure. Cut back to Lorna. Now she's part of the local prostitute group of girls, I guess, in the story. Another great figure. The pose and the simple lines and the simple understandings of where to put the curves in every part of these legs, on the hips, the hip bone, the inner thigh, and then the lighting on it all. And these close-up of these faces with this makeup, this wild hair. All great. Meanwhile, Lorna's getting some information, and then she's got to go searching for her robot companions. Great coloring with like the dark room that she's entering with lighting from behind, so it's almost a silhouette. She says they must be here. I haven't seen any robots on the ship, so maybe they're in this part of the boat. So she goes looking, and then gets into like a more active part of the ship. There's sound coming from everywhere. There's robots around. She runs into some other robots that have fallen apart and are deteriorating and mostly non-functional, but still kind of clicking alive. And she comes up to it. She's like, he's dying. She has like sympathies for robots as life forms. I don't know if that's been established in the lore. But then someone grabs her from behind, attacks her, and is like, come on, love. How did you think of coming to a place like this? We got some scummy guys working in the bowels of the ship, and now they've got her. And she's like, why? It's my friend from the brothel, the guy that was like messing with her earlier. I'm sure I'm happy to see you here, of all places. Of course, her shirt's ripping open. No one can come down here unless they're authorized, and I bet that's not your case. So he's like, she must repent for her sins now. So he undoes his pants and forces her to do, I'm trying to avoid saying certain things. I'm already worried that the algorithm might pick up something and like block this or make it not suitable for ad revenue or whatever. So this is an element that I struggle with. And I had a lot of thoughts on this. I was going over it in my head last night when I was thinking about how do I verbalize this, where she's being forced, she's being raped, but she's almost enjoying it. I would say it looks like she is enjoying it. So, like, that's not okay. It's one thing if she's, like, using her sexuality by her own choice and having relations with somebody to get what she wants. And it's another thing to have slimeball pieces of crap force themselves on her, but to have her kind of enjoying it. I mean, that's the implication. She's not screaming. She's not fighting. She's not biting. She put her mouth around that stuff, and he's getting it. And he's like, good, very good. Now you're going to feel something special, I promise. Ripping her clothes out. So I'm trying to not be, like, overly critical and a prude. I mean, it's a comic strip. It's meant to be sexualized. It's meant to be lighthearted. It's meant to be fun. But like, there's nothing funny about rape, right? Like, it's not hot to get turned on by someone forcing themselves on a woman, but then to have her enjoying it. I don't know how to feel about this. Like, it doesn't bother me personally because I can separate, it's just a comic strip. No rational, smart, moral human being would ever do something like this. and be okay with it and let anybody get away with it. It's just a comic strip. It's in heavy metal. But I'm also like, do you have to have her enjoying it? So I don't know. I'm curious as to your thoughts on that. I mean, they got her sprawled out and they're going to take her and he gets behind her and just gets all up in her business. Um, He's like, hey, are you having fun yet? He's like, yes, I think so. He's like, turn around. Oh, she says, turn me around. I want to feel you more. Now, this is her being strategic. If she plays along, she can get them into a position and a place where she can get the better of them, which she does. But so maybe you could say that she's playing along for sake of survival and manipulation to eventually win, because she gets them flipped over and then kicks them in the face, pulls a weapon out and stabs their asses to death. So I guess you could say that's what's going on. She wasn't actually enjoying it, but it's a really weird kind of situation to kind of know how to feel about it. In this book where I'm just enamored with the art, the figure drawings are good. You know, if you're having a comic with sexuality and sex in it, I'm kind of fine with that for sure. But this little element, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about that. But of course, now she had her clothes ripped off. Well, now she's walking around naked. Okay, so she keeps traveling into another, part of the ship. And again, I'm getting back into the figure drawing part of this. That figure, the way that like her, things are draping naturally. There's like soft folds in her flesh. She's not like a rock hard muscular girl with like muscles and abs and muscle tone definition. She's a soft round figure, and that's what he is able to draw so well. I love her face and her hair, the way it's falling right there. One of my favorite drawings. It's just so good. But she finds her robot companions. They're like, oh, there you guys are. Great. You got to wait a little bit longer. Now that I know you're here, you know that I'm here. We got to plan an escape. They're like, all right, we'll hang out. Just don't forget about us. She's like, don't worry. We'll be together soon. I'll figure this out. So she has to take off. Okay. Then we get back to a shot of the giant ship, and then immediately close up on her ass. So Lorna goes back to this Ishmael guy who she met before and is, having voluntary consensual relations. Although I think she's trying to manipulate him too, because she's trying to get stuff out of him. But I think he's kind of onto it. He gets it. She's asking him, like, how would we get out of here if a disaster were to happen to this ship? He's like, there's little chance for that, but in that imaginary case, the guy would get the lifeboats working. And she's like, yeah, the guy who's second in command, Ahab's right-hand man, he has the lifeboat key with him on the end. The captain has the other key. Only they can get the lifeboats to work. She's like, I'd like to meet him. He says, that'll be difficult. He's the one who directs the Dikmok hunt, the whale hunts. Only then do we see him. And then, so they're getting it on again. And while the captain, Ahab, is giving an announcement over the ship, they just go about their business. And once again, they're just getting into it. Getting pretty graphic. Great shot of her face, like the expression, eyes, nose, mouth. Hands are getting up in there. He's getting all up in her business, like really getting into her business. That's good times right there. Yahoo. But the guy's going on about, we're going to hunt the whales and we're going to do this. And then suddenly the alarms go off. The whales are there and it's time to hunt. So, okay, we got to go hunt. So, of course, she's still standing around undressed. He gets his outfit on and she's like, wait, I want to go with you. He's like, it's impossible. Unauthorized people can't get on the hunting boats. She's like, we'll see about that. I hope they are my size. And so we get back to the hunting boats and they eject out of the side of their ship, and they're able to kind of calculate where these whales are. And the girl, Lorna, she snuck onto there. She got hidden in an outfit. Well, why she wanted to sneak onto the boats, maybe to steal the lifeboat key from the guy who is only one of the two people that have the key to the lifeboats. Meanwhile, boom, look at this artwork and the colors as this weird space whale creature breaches the water. Yeah, she's saying, I got to get the key from him to the lifeboat so she can get away with her robot friends. But then the giant whale creature, I can't get over this painting and his use of color and texture for the water. So good. But, they're on the boat, the whale's churning, and they got all these great shots as the boat gets kind of flipped, and the guy who has the key gets dropped into the water. So she jumps in after him. I love this panel of her diving into the water, and like that, the way that the bubbles and the water as she breaches the surface of the water, falling into it. She goes down, snatches the guy who has the key, and they pull her up. And then as the whale kind of sails off, now they're back on the boat. And the guy here, Queequeg, is this guy? It's like, what are you doing? He's like, he's been sitting in that position for hours. He's got his bones. I think he can see like the future, in the bones. And he can see the captain Ahab is in the depths of the sea telling us to enter his tomb. Basically, he sees death coming for them. And I think I know that element from the Moby Dick story. But anyway, then that says continued on page 96. So we got to flip to the next part of the book to finish the story. A lot more stuff that you could purchase. This whole other story right here, the Inquisitor. Not going to get into this one, but we can glance at the artwork. Pretty damn good. Like watercolor, I guess. It's really moody, really dark, really creepy. Really well done. Is this Tim Sale? I swear I look at these faces and I know that. Where is the credits? No, I'm sorry. I looked at this and I swear to God this was Tim Sale artwork. But it doesn't list him as the artist, so I'm sorry. Holy shit, that looks just like him. I would have bet you $1,000 that was him. Anyway, good artwork. Really well done, really moody. More heavy metal things to buy. Another story in here. It's well drawn, but when you got this other guy, Azpiri, in here, none of this stuff, none of it even comes close. Like, it's all fine, but it's all going to be skipped over, as I did. Just like, no, not interested in this stuff. It's all fine. It's all very fine stuff, but Julie Strain, yeah, that's the girl that I was talking about. She was pretty hot in her day. I like the black and white artwork. That's always something fun to see. But back on the story. Knock at the door. And they're like, is the woman who saved Snyder, is the name of the guy who had the other key, is the woman who saved Snyder here? And like, her name is Lorna, so here she is. The captain wishes to meet you. Put on your best clothes and we'll come fetch you. And then so the other girls are like, well, I don't know whether to congratulate you or pity you. So she gets dressed up to look sexy, almost practically undressed, boobs out and everything. Back to the command center of the boat. They're trying to find, as Ahab is, aggressively, chasing the whale. So they're launching probes in 4 different directions to try and track it down. Love this interior of the boat, all the technology everywhere, the lights glowing on them. And then this guy in this technological gear, like his face popping out of all this technological stuff. I love this shot of the hand pushing the button. And then this shot of the underside of the boat under the water. This even looks like a giant turbine. Like, I wonder if this would be like a means of propulsion. But they launch these probes out. And you can just, like, the bubbles in the water, these things take off into the depths of the ocean there. So well drawn. And then Lorna, of course, practically undressed, goes to meet Captain Ahab. Great backgrounds, and there he is. You're the woman who saved one of my men from certain death. He says, I know how to appreciate courage when it comes by. You're not afraid of my appearance, are you? She's like, I'm not scared of nothing and no one. He's like, good, let's drink to that. He says, do you like my cabin? It has taken 20 years of my life to get a hold of all of this. So he's talking about the life that he's spent acquiring, the life that he's got. 20 long years hunting those beasts born from evil. And she says, all but one, as she takes a drink. And he's like, you said it. I'll have you know that it was Leviathan who dismasted me, and I owe Leviathan for this dead stump on which I now stand. He's like, it was that damned beast who left me crippled for life. Oh, but I will destroy it. I will chase it beyond hell's fires if need be. Meanwhile, they get a communication. Captain, I have to inform you that the probes have located Leviathan some 20 miles northeast from here. He's like, good, full speed for it. He's like, today is a great day. We must celebrate. And then she's thinking to herself, she's a little dizzy. She's like, what the hell is going on? I'm feeling dizzy. He put something in my drink. And he's like, now you and I are going to have some fun. So he poisoned her drink. And so here we are again. He poisoned her, starts groping her, and starts having his way with her. Now, I guess you could say this look on her face, which you would normally interpret as she's enjoying this shit, is because she's drugged. This one she can't forcibly or like find her way out of by manipulating people. She's drugged. So, okay. Meanwhile, Ishmael and Queequeg, they're sitting there talking. The guy's got his coffin built. He's ready for the impending death. Great shot of the ocean, turbulent waters, lightning, storms, the sails in the distance. And we're back here with Ahab getting her. Like, really well drawn, pretty sensual stuff. But, of course, he's forcing himself on her. So, I mean, it's pretty disturbing. He says, you look a little weak, but don't worry, it will soon pass. I want you to be by my side when I relish sweet revenge. So he throws her over and just starts railing her from behind. Great figure drawings. Kind of gross. Flips her over, getting her again, you know. And now feel my hatred, feel the hatred that is burning inside of me. And we cut to the whale. She sees the key, and he's like, I can feel its presence very close as he's getting ready to bust. And we see the whale. And then, meanwhile, Ishmael and Queequeg are getting ready, and Ishmael's back up there. He's got her still kind of half unconscious body with her as he's like, let's go kill this damn whale. Let's get him. Again, all this great artwork. Just a little disturbing what's going on, whatever. They get on the hunting boats, take off out there, and Ahab's showing how he's kind of like, this is dangerous. Maybe they should give this up. Ahab's like, I ain't having it. We're going to go do this. Of course, they drag the girl alongside there because he wants her to witness his victory. He's got the spear harpoon weapon ready to go. And then they like the whale is right here. It's coming up from right under us. They got 3 boats, so this is a down angle looking on it. And then holy shit, splash page. Look at that painting. Giant whale coming up out of the water, smashing one of the boats. The other 2 are still there. The water, the color, the lightning. As much as I love that one where he comes up out of the water, this splashing down back under the water. It feels like an entirely different environment where it's the turbulent rainstorms above the water and then under it, like what it's like to go under the water where it's kind of silent. And again, these bubbles and frothy foam things, you know, coming down as the whale comes back under the water. This is some incredible artwork. Just incredibly well done. So Ishmael, he's like, we got to get a beat on him. We got to get him. Come on. We got to, like, we can't even rescue the guys that got in the boat that got hit. Like, we can't rescue them. We got to hunt this thing. So meanwhile, the girl's kind of, Lorna's getting her senses back to her. She's coming back to, you know, getting the drugs out of her. The whale's coming around to get him. They aim the harpoon weapon, fire it, impales him. And then, of course, you know, their vessel gets smashed from the whale coming after them. So she's but she's like, I have to get at her, but I got to get the key. So we're back up there with Ahab. The whale again is smashed. More of the hunting vessels down into the water, including the one that Lorna was on. It comes up, smashes it. Everything falls apart. She's hanging on to the little like jet ski vehicle thing here as you see the teeth of this creature crunching everything. Like he's just destroying everything. Such fantastic artwork. And she gets onto the water ski, jet ski thing. She's wondering where Ishmael is. I'm sure he's gone. But then Ahab's over here like, help me. So he's like, come on, take me to the Pequod. Take me back to the ship. We can destroy it. She's like, no, she's got the key. So she takes it. And then he gets dragged off because the harpoon is attached to him. Of course, that's how the Ahab story goes. So he climbs up on it, gets a spear, and it keeps trying to stab it into it. He's trying to do the whole Moby Dick Ahab thing, and it takes him away, and he's gone. So she's like, the whale's going towards the Pequod itself. So she gets on the water ski, zips over there real fast, gets inside it, and the whale smashes into the boat. She's going through the bowels of the ship, finds her robot companions, like, come on, we got to get out of here. The boat is breaking up. And then they have to get they got to get to the lifeboats. We got to go. The ship is tipped over. And then another great shot of the boat itself sinking under the water, falling apart, debris falling everywhere. And then on the side, one of the escape pods just poofs off and raises up to the surface. It breaches the surface of the water and floats there. And they're like, distress signals being sent out. Somebody will come get us. She's sitting there, of course, completely undressed, looking hot as hell. She's like, I want to get off this planet as soon as possible. She's like, what a hell of an adventure. And then it's just a big last shot of like a horizon. And then the text here says, Ahab sunk with his ship, and just like Satan, he didn't want to sink into hell without a piece of the sky to cover himself with. And the great ocean shroud went on rippling as it had probably done millions of years ago. So what an adventure, and what a revelation of art. As you can tell, as I've gone on for 40 minutes, like this Azpiri guy, that was probably the best possible version of a story I could ever get from my first introduction to that guy's work. Again, maybe there's others out there that are as good or better, but as I've said, besides the attractive female figures that he can draw, everything else that he does is fantastically amazing. It's just so good. I can't get over how good that is. I remember when I was going through this and this is amazing. Like, I am so lucky to have found this book, and it's been one of my favorite kind of artistic inspirations forever. It's just amazing. So, sometimes I get people commenting that they don't like it when I'm bashing on books. They much prefer it when I have something that I'm really excited about and talk about. Well, here you go. I am absolutely fascinated with the art and story in this book. And this guy, this artist, is not only can he draw human figures, he can draw backgrounds, he can draw old people, he can draw ugly people, young people, monsters, backgrounds. He can do everything. He can do it all. Pencils, colors, inks, whatever. It's just, I wonder if he letters it too. I don't know. Just amazing work. So I'm just blown away by it. I love it so much. And there's some more that I have, like I was saying, with this guy's work in it. None of it are as good as this. It's not quite the same story, but this thing is just incredible. So that is all I've got for now. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time.